Some thrillers in the 1990s occupied a peculiar middle ground. Movies with Hollywood polish, but transgressive hearts. Budgets that allowed for genuine craft, but not enough marketing muscle to guarantee an audience. Movies that were a little colder for casual audiences, a little too stylish to be dismissed as exploitation, but more sophisticated than their theatrical runs would suggest. King of New York gave Christopher Walken one of his most volcanic roles as Frank White, a drug lord who gets out of prison and decides to redistribute wealth by murdering every other dealer in the city. Abel Ferrara's vision of New York feels apocalyptic. Every scene drips with rain, blood, or neon, while Walken dances through nightclub massacres with genuine joy. Lawrence Fishburne delivers one of his most intense performances as Jimmy Jump, Frank White's right-hand enforcer, matching Walken's controlled menace with pure physical threat. Wesley Snipes plays Tommy Flanagan, a sharp, relentless detective circling White, while bringing a calculated swagger to the story, while David Caruso leads the police task force obsessed with bringing White down, his pursuit growing increasingly unhinged as the body count rises and the boundaries between cop and criminal blur. The movie initially received an X rating from the MPAA and had to be cut multiple times to achieve an R rating. Though it received mixed reviews initially, it's since been recognized as one of Ferrara's best works, earning a 74% score on Rotten Tomatoes. The film's influence on hip-hop culture is undeniable, with its dialogue and imagery appearing in dozens of rap songs and music videos throughout the 90s and beyond. Wild at Heart took David Lynch's surrealism and cranked it toward pure delirium, following Nicolas Cage and Laura Dern as lovers on the run from her psychotic mother and the hitmen she's hired. Nicolas Cage, famously an admirer of Elvis, created his character Sailor by channeling him and heavy metal singers simultaneously, wearing a snakeskin jacket he called a symbol of my individuality and belief in personal freedom. Willem Dafoe appears as Bobby Peru, a grotesque figure with filed teeth who delivers one of the most unsettling performances in Lynch's filmography, radiating menace in every scene he's in. Diane Ladd, who is Laura Dern's real-life mother, earned Oscar and Golden Globe nominations for playing her deranged mother. It was one of several projects the duo acted in together, including Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore and Rambling Rose, which they both received Oscar nominations for in the same year. Wild at Heart won the Palme d'Or at Cannes in 1990, despite dividing critics and audiences. But after the debut of Twin Peaks that same year, it cemented David Lynch's status as American cinema's premier provocateur. 1998's Palmetto trapped Woody Harrelson in a Florida noir where the humidity feels like a villain trying to suffocate everyone. He plays journalist Harry Barber, fresh out of prison, who immediately falls for Elizabeth Shue's scheme to fake her stepdaughter's kidnapping. But he doesn't realize he's being set up as the fall guy in a darker game. Director Volker Schlondorf, the German filmmaker behind The Tin Drum, brought a European sensibility to this American pulp, shooting the movie like the sweat itself was toxic. Based on James Hadley Chase's novel Just Another Sucker from 1961, it was shot in and around Sarasota, Florida, with the overwhelming humidity adding to the oppressive atmosphere. Despite a cast that includes Gina Gershon, Chloe Sevigny, and Michael Rappaport, the film struggled at the box office. What makes it watchable now is Woody Harrelson, who leans into his doomed likability while playing a guy who keeps thinking the next move will save him, even as every decision digs the hole deeper. Don Johnson trades Miami Vice pastels for Texas noir in The Hot Spot, playing a drifter named Harry Maddox, who rolls into a small town and gets caught up in a blackmail scheme. He immediately starts sleeping with Dolly Harshaw, a manipulative femme fatale played by Virginia Madsen, and Gloria Harper, a vulnerable younger woman played by Jennifer Connelly. Directed by Dennis Hopper, it's an explicit homage to 1940s noir and based on Charles Williams' 1952 novel, Hell Hath No Fury. Complete with a Miles Davis score and dialogue dripping with innuendo, the plot about a bank robbery that goes sideways when lust overtakes logic matters less than the atmosphere of heat and bad decisions. Hopper shot in Taylor and Austin, Texas, using the sweltering summer climate to create the discomfort on camera. Despite positive reviews from critics who praised its noir credentials, calling the direction tough, stylish, and a superior work in old traditions, the movie bombed domestically. Hopper would go on to direct the romantic comedy Chasers in 1994, before focusing primarily on acting for the remainder of his career, making The Hot Spot one of his final attempts at sustained directorial vision. Copland stranded Sylvester Stallone in James Mangold's corrupt New Jersey town, where NYPD cops live outside jurisdiction and murder anyone who threatens their secret empire. Stallone gained 40 pounds to play Freddy, a partially deaf sheriff who discovers his heroes are monsters, surrounding himself with Harvey Keitel, Ray Liotta, and Robert De Niro. The movie feels like a Western noir that got lost in Jersey, one man against an entire system.
This is a good one, right?
The film was shot in Edgewater, New Jersey, with Mangold basing the fictional town on his own childhood home of Washingtonville, New York, where many NYPD officers lived. The ensemble cast also includes Michael Rappaport, Janine Garofalo, and Robert Patrick as officers caught in the web of police corruption. Mangold constructs the story as a slow-burn thriller, letting the tension build as Freddy, in one of Stallone's better performances, pieces together the conspiracy, while the corrupt cops realize he's no longer willing to look the other way. The movie did well at the box office. It earned $63 million worldwide and holds a 75% on Rotten Tomatoes, with critics praising its gritty authenticity and refusal to soften the ethical decay at its center. The Grifters brought Jim Thompson's 1963 novel to life, with 3 generations of con artists destroying each other over money and twisted love. John Cusack plays a small-time grifter caught between his veteran con-woman girlfriend, played by Annette Bening, and his mother, played by Angelica Houston. His mother is a mob-connected pro who abandoned him as a child and now wants back in his life. Director Stephen Frears turns their reunion into something closer to a Greek tragedy, a mother and son circling each other with vengeance that feels almost ancient. Produced by Martin Scorsese, he brought in crime novelist Donald Westlake to adapt Thompson's bleak worldview into a screenplay. Houston studied con artists at card parlors in Los Angeles County, learning their tells and tricks to prepare for the role. The movie earned 4 Oscar nominations, including Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay, and acting nominations for both Houston and Bening. Despite critical acclaim and a 92% Rotten Tomatoes score, it struggled at the box office. But Frears and Westlake never compromised Thompson's vision. It's noir without redemption, and con artists without honor. Mulholland Falls assembled Nick Nolte, Chaz Palminteri, Michael Madsen, and Chris Penn as the LAPD Hat Squad. 1950s cops who threw suspects off Mulholland Drive, then got tangled in a nuclear conspiracy involving Nolte's affair with a doomed socialite, played by Jennifer Connelly. Director Lee Tamahori, fresh off 1994's Once Were Warriors, tried to make something like Chinatown meets The Untouchables, while the movie's real achievement is making Los Angeles look like a city built on secrets and radiation. Every scene feels contaminated, like the whole city might be poisonous. It moves at a steady, deliberate pace, letting paranoia and the plot's twisted secrets do most of the heavy lifting. John Malkovich appears as a military official whose calm explanations of murder feel more terrifying than any shouting villain. Released in 1996, the movie underperformed at the box office and quickly faded from view, but it's aged better than expected. Watching it now, it plays like a moody, quietly sinister noir that values atmosphere and anxiety over easy answers. New Jack City exploded the crime thriller into something more raw and socially conscious, with Wesley Snipes ruling Harlem as crack kingpin Nino Brown, while Ice-T and Judd Nelson play the unlikely cops hunting him. Director Mario Van Peebles, in his feature film directorial debut, shot it like a war film, with drug dealing as corporate terrorism and the projects as occupied territory. Snipes created Nino as a businessman who happened to sell crack, wearing Armani suits and refusing to play him as a simple villain. Originally written as a draft for The Godfather Part 3 by Thomas Lee Wright, the script was rewritten by Barry Michael Cooper based on his Village Voice articles about Detroit's crack wars. He would also write 1994's Above the Rim and Sugar Hill, the latter of which also stars Wesley Snipes. The movie sparked controversy over its violence, but earned $47 million on an $8 million budget, becoming the highest-grossing independent film of 1991. Chris Rock, in his first dramatic role as Pookie the Informant, delivered a performance that showed his range beyond comedy. The film's New Jack Swing soundtrack, consisting of 11 original songs, most of which were performed by chart-topping artists at the time, helped define the sound of early 90s America. Oliver Stone followed the prestige of 1995's Nixon, with a hard pivot into U-turn. Sean Penn plays Bobby Cooper, a small-time gambler whose car breaks down in Superior, Arizona, leaving him stranded in a town that seems designed to grind him down piece by piece. Jennifer Lopez plays a restless drifter looking for a way out, while Nick Nolte looms over as her volatile, barely contained husband. A routine stop meant to get back on the road instead pulls Bobby Cooper into a tightening web of murder schemes, double crosses, and sexual power games where every decision makes things worse. Stone shot on location in rural Arizona, leaning heavily into the oppressive heat and barren landscapes, which press in on the characters as much as the plot does. Billy Bob Thornton's scene-stealing mechanic was largely shaped through improvisation, adds an extra layer of menace and dark humor, turning brief encounters into nerve-wracking set pieces. The movie struggled commercially on release, but with time, its appeal has sharpened. A mean, sweaty desert noir that commits fully to pulp, powered by aggressive performances and a director clearly enjoying the freedom to go smaller, nastier, and stranger than his reputation suggested.